Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a life that honestly reads like an incredible sci-fi novel. I'm talking about Hal Finney. He was this unsung visionary who completely transformed from a retro video game developer into a central pillar of digital freedom. Seriously, if you use the internet today, your privacy and your digital sovereignty owe a massive debt to this one individual.
Okay, let's dive into this. Take a look at this quote from 1992. The computer can be used as a tool to liberate and protect people, rather than to control them. This single sentence, straight from the heart of the early cypherpunk manifesto, set the extraordinarily high stakes for Hal's entire life's work. He didn't just see computers as, basic calculators. He saw them as defensive weapons for human rights.
Chapter 1. Games to Digital Freedom.
So, our story starts back in 1979, right after Hal graduated from Caltech with a BS in electrical engineering. And you might be surprised to learn that his professional journey actually kicked off in the highly creative, fast-paced world of video games. Working at ASPOF Technological Consulting, Hal was the lead developer for several iconic retro titles for the Atari 2600 and Mattel Intellivision. We're talking absolute classics like Adventures of Tron, Armor Ambush, Astroblast, and Space Attack. And what's really fascinating here is that mastering the complex logic and highly constrained hardware systems of these early consoles served as the perfect training ground for his later cryptographic genius. He learned how to do extraordinary things with very limited code.
Chapter 2. The Crypto Wars. As we move into the early 1990s, the digital landscape was rapidly shifting, which brings us to a high-stakes era known as the Crypto Wars. This was a classic David versus Goliath dynamic. On one side, you had the US government, whose policy was to classify strong encryption software as munitions, essentially putting it in the exact same legal category as weapons of war, just to prevent its widespread public use. On the other side, you had Hall and the cypherpunk movement. They believed deeply that state surveillance threatened fundamental liberty, and that writing and distributing strong cryptographic code was the ultimate defensive mechanism to protect individual sovereignty.
So how did Hal respond? Well, he provided technical solutions to political problems. Step 1, he became the second developer hired by Phil Zimmermann and was totally instrumental in co-developing PGP 2.0, or Pretty Good Privacy. This program effectively democratized high-level encryption for the public, but Hal didn't stop there. Step 2, he ran the very first cryptographically based anonymous remailer. As he argued in his famous essay, Why Remailers, simply hiding the content of a message wasn't enough. You had to strip the identifying metadata to truly protect individuals from the asymmetrical power of the state and large corporations. Honestly, if you've ever sent a secure, encrypted message on your phone today, you are utilizing the defensive architecture Hal helped build.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Chapter 3. Building Digital Trust.
Hal's focus naturally expanded from protecting private communication to protecting digital value. In 2004, he released a groundbreaking project called RPOW, or Reusable Proofs of Work. This system allowed proof-of-work tokens to actually be reused and transferred between users as a form of digital cash. This was a real game-changer. RPOW solved major technical hurdles of digital currency that previous systems just couldn't crack, acting as a crucial stepping stone toward modern cryptocurrency.
But the most unique technical feature was how he secured it. Hal hosted the RPOW server on an IBM 4758 secure cryptographic coprocessor. This was a FIPS 40 Level 4 hardware setup, which basically means it had military-grade tamper resistance. By using what he called transparent servers, users could cryptographically verify the software running on the hardware. This ensured the system operated honestly without anyone needing to trust a central authority, not even Hal himself. This hardware-based trust model directly anticipated the decentralized, trustless models of modern blockchains.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact technical evolution we're talking about. Check out the transferability and consensus rows here. We start with Adam Back's Hashcash, which created digital scarcity but lacked transferability. Then, Hal Finney's RPOW takes that proof of work and makes it transferable using that secure hardware model. Finally, we see the conceptual leap to Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin, which replaced the hardware server with a peer-to-peer blockchain consensus. You can literally trace the genetic code of digital money right across this matrix.
Chapter 4. Running Bitcoin.
In late 2008, when Satoshi Nakamoto released the Bitcoin white paper, a lot of the older cryptographic graybeards on the mailing lists were highly cynical. They had seen way too many grand schemes fail over the years. But Hal? He was profoundly idealistic. He grabbed the software right away, and on January 10, 2009, posted this now legendary iconic two-word tweet, running Bitcoin. With that post, he became the very first person in the world, besides Satoshi himself, to run the Bitcoin software.
Just 2 days later, on January 12, 2009, we get this number, 10. That is the exact number of Bitcoin sent from Satoshi to Hal in block 170. It marks the first ever Bitcoin transaction. Hal and Satoshi spent the next few days just emailing back and forth, with Hal finding bugs and Satoshi fixing them in real time.
Now take a look at this massive number, $10 million. Just days after the network launched, when Bitcoin had literally zero market value, Hal demonstrated this extraordinary macroeconomic foresight. He speculated that if Bitcoin were to become the world's dominant payment system, the mathematical scarcity of the coins meant the eventual value of a single Bitcoin could reach $10 million. It's an absolutely stunning prediction that shows just how deeply he understood the system's potential from day one.
Chapter 5. Dying outside, alive inside.
In August of 2009, the tone of our story gently shifts. Hal, who had been an incredibly active distance runner in peak physical shape, received a devastating diagnosis of ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. To truly understand him, we have to look at his essay titled Dying Outside. In it, he used a dark joke about a doctor counting down a patient's life to brilliantly and somewhat humorously illustrate his own grim reality. It grounds this whole technical narrative in something deeply emotional, showing his incredible spirit surrounded by his loving family.
Despite his body progressively failing him, he maintained a profound optimism. As he wrote, "While I was dying outside, I remained alive inside, with my mind and reason untouched." His physical abilities were fading, sure, but his brilliant mind was as sharp and as driven as ever.
So, the crucial point is, he absolutely refused to stop working. When ALS left him completely paralyzed, Hal used a specialized interface that tracked his eye movements so he could continue programming. He was typing code at a pace 50 times slower than before, but he kept going. His final project was developing experimental software called BFlick, which used modern processor security features to harden Bitcoin wallets. Even in his final days, his contributions were relentlessly focused on protecting individual freedom.
Chapter 6. An Extropian Legacy. This brings us to the final chapter of his life, and the philosophical beliefs that fueled his incredible resilience. Hal was a dedicated extropian. Now, extropianism is a branch of transhumanism, focused on using technology and science to expand human potential, overcome biological limitations, and extend human lifespan. Hal engaged in these deep, fascinating philosophical discussions on the extropians' mailing list. He possessed a profound optimism about the future of intelligence, believing that human reason and science could eventually conquer our biological limits. When you look at this timeline, the relentless pace of his later life is just breathtaking. In a span of just 5 years, he launched RPO, became the first adopter of Bitcoin, received the first transaction, and then collided with his ultimate mortality through his devastating ALS diagnosis. The intersection of his highest technical breakthroughs and his greatest physical challenge is truly profound.
On August 28, 2014, Hal Finney passed away. But true to his extropian convictions, he was cryopreserved by the Alcor Life Extension Foundation. This final act was a testament to his deeply held belief that death is merely a technical problem, yet to be solved. He viewed code and science as the architecture for a much better world.
Which leaves us with a thought-provoking question. Will science and code eventually catch up to Hal Finney's ultimate vision of immortality? While we wait for that answer, Hal's life stands as absolute proof that a single individual's quiet, persistent application of logic and technology truly can challenge systemic power, protect individual liberty, and change the world. Thank you for joining me for this explainer.